So this is a topic that's been on my mind a lot recently. The inspiration I got for this was actually from about a year and a half ago when Player Protect v3 got released, and that's a program we'll talk about in a little bit, but that's what really opened my eyes to the abuse of third-party programs. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the elephant in the room, and that's Cheat Engine. Cheat Engine is without a doubt the most abused program in the life of Dark Souls 3, and I'm sure it will be available in Elden Ring more than likely on the first day. So why is Cheat Engine a problem, and how does it affect the PvP community? Well, when I first interacted with the Twitch community back in 2018, I didn't notice that much cheating, with the exception of quote-unquote quality of life stuff. Things that would help you build your character, killing all the mobs in Pontiff to save the time of doing it prior to embering, and keeping a password summon only fight club alive for as long as you wanted. Honestly, these things are completely fine. However, as time went on, things got more and more advanced, and more things became commonplace. Now, I would like to preface this by saying malicious cheaters will always be an issue so long as FromSoft continues to allow the use of these systems without any real consequences. Furthermore, the ability to family share Dark Souls 3 meant that even if someone was banned for cheating maliciously, they could easily just make a brand new account without even having to pay for the game again. Malicious cheaters aren't really what I'd like to talk about today. I'm more concerned with how the PvP community has normalized cheating against those malicious players with scripts of their own. A few examples would be using scripts to kill a player's boss, modifying items to curse or instant kill a player, burger flipping the world, and so much more. And where this becomes an issue is not the fact that we are handling malicious players, but rather we're normalizing cheating as a part of the game. I didn't notice a very large influx in cheaters until I became more active in the community in about 2020. At that time, these scripts were starting to be shared more and more in the community, and when someone would use a script or other source to maybe revive themselves after they die, or cheat to kill a player, instead of using the black crystal to leave the session, players would rather teleport to the boss room, change team type, and kill the cheating player's boss. I would also like to take a second and point out, I have certainly toggled against cheaters, and I am just as much to blame as anyone else. This isn't really a video designed to put blame on people or call anybody out. This is more to help us be aware of these things moving into Elden Ring. Throughout the first few months of 2020, one of the things I noticed the most was it was almost fun when someone would cheat against you or someone you were watching, because then you or that player had the green light to turn on cheats of your own and cheat better than them. With this mentality that we as a community developed, it began opening doors on using these tools to not only deal with people that were obviously cheating, but instead people playing within the boundaries of the game that we felt were the same as cheating. I'm going to build a hypothetical for this scenario so you can see how easy it is to justify this and make that connection. Let's say someone from the easternmost part of Russia and someone from the southernmost part of South America connect to one another. Since Dark Souls 3 uses a player-to-player connection, those players will have roughly 400 ping. Now, there are mechanics in the game that do not work as intended when that much latency is involved. And that's not the fault of either player, they just happen to live over 15,000 kilometers away from one another. In this instance, if either player is using an item or mechanic that increases their iframes, like Fast Roll, Quickstep, or Karthus Blood Ring, it makes it nearly impossible for them to be hit if they double roll. The reason for that being due to the high ping. When the player rolling begins a second roll, they are still in iframes on the other player's screen when they start the new set of iframes on their screen. This causes the iframes to overlap, effectively giving them infinite iframes. Amir does a very in-depth video on why this happens, and I'll link that in the description. Now, it wouldn't be that far of a stretch for someone to say the other player is basically cheating, since they are achieving something that without the latency would only be achievable through a third-party program. And due to that, they justify using their third-party program to deal with that player. Once you have justified toggling against a player that is technically playing within the boundaries of the game, you open a door that cheating is an okay thing to do. I say this because I've watched it happen, and of course, yes, this also extends to dealing with players that abuse unintended game mechanics. I don't care to have the conversation about glitches in this video. However, using a third-party source to counteract things within the confines of the game is a major part of the problem. Over the course of 2020 and throughout 2021, people began cheating more and more to deal with things that happen in the game, like a player camping the ladder in water reserve, or a player with packet loss making it nearly impossible to fight them. And as these things became more and more accepted across the community and more people got access to scripts like these, a real problem started to persist. People would simply cheat because they felt they were better than the other player and simply couldn't be bothered to die to them. Maybe it was funny or good content on stream, or perhaps they felt that due to the connection, it was unfair for them to have to fight. As we near 2022, the abuse and normalization of Cheat Engine has only gotten worse and worse. And as I previously mentioned, unless FromSoft has a good anti-cheat system, the use of Cheat Engine will likely persist into Elden Ring. Next, I'm going to go over systems designed to help people with malicious cheaters without having to cheat themselves, commonly referred to as anti-cheats. To start, I'll go over StatChecker. StatChecker was a program that initially gained popularity near the end of 2020. StatChecker was designed to be a quality of life tool with the ability to protect from stat cheaters specifically. This program was essentially a cheat engine table with an easy to use interface, and it would check all the player stats of the session you entered and make sure they were all legitimate. If they weren't legitimate, it would allow you to access a button to either remove that player from your session or instant kill them. And of course, in order to do those things, your third-party program is breaking the confines of the game. However, this was seen as an okay thing since you were only allowed to do it to people that were already cheating themselves. StatChecker was the first program to my knowledge that had a check system in place, and what that check system did was make it feel as if you weren't actually cheating because the program said it was okay. Now, I do think there is something to be said about not having access to malicious scripts unless the other player makes the first move. However, it's still cheating, and not only did StatChecker make it feel like it was okay to cheat, it was also reverse engineered, allowing people access to the scripts it had without even needing to run the program. The biggest problem I see with StatChecker, having witnessed the way the community accepts these third-party programs, is that it made it feel like you weren't actually cheating, that you were still playing within the confines of the game because the small button lit up and said it was okay to cheat. After some time, I believe in early 2021, a version of StatChecker became available that no longer needed that check system, and it was published on Nexus as an anti-cheat. Of course, it was taken down as soon as they realized it was just a pocket cheat engine table, but the damage was already done. People that have the program can easily share it with others, and much like the widespread of malicious CE scripts, nearly anyone that wants it has this version, allowing them to abuse this program whenever they justify it, arguably just as easy as Cheat Engine would allow them to. The next anti-cheat program worth mentioning is Pyre Protect. Pyre Protect was an anti-cheat that came out in 2020, and it had a lot of protections from things like being cursed, protections for your boss, as well as crash protections, among some other things. Pyre was an excellent tool that prevented players from acting malicious towards you. It also gave you the ability to disconnect yourself from the session. Pyre seems like a pretty cool tool, so why am I mentioning it in this video? Well, there are two parts of Pyre's program that allowed it to be exploited. Specifically, the third version, Pyre's v3, gave you a kick tool and it allowed you to use it on anyone in the session, giving you the ability to remove people as you saw fit. Now, the thought for this, I'm sure, was to allow a host of a session to kick a malicious player without having to completely reset their world. But as we've seen, a pattern began to form where players would remove other players simply because they didn't want to play with them. Whether that player was using glitches, had a very bad connection, or maybe they didn't want to die to a repost from that parry they just took. The reason this particular program opened my eyes to the normalization and justification of cheating is because players would act like, since it was a pyre kick, it was somehow okay or not cheating, and if somebody cheated against them, it was somehow less okay for that player to use their third-party program because it wasn't an AntiCheat. Pyre also allowed the use of Cheat Engine, allowing players to cheat maliciously and have protections of a so-called anti-cheat. Eventually, Pyre v5 came out, the kick feature was removed, and it would send any v3 user back to the main menu anytime they connected to a v5 user. The thought for this was to stop people from using the broken version, and, well, it did just that, as Pyre v3 is pretty much gone from the community. As we see in both of our examples of anti-cheats, these systems designed to counteract cheaters only led to more players cheating, adding to the normalization of cheating, and in this case, giving them protection so measures taken against them wouldn't actually stop them. The next program I'm going to talk about is a program called Blue Sentinels. Blue Sentinels is the current anti-cheat tool, much like Pyre, though done a little bit better. Blue Sentinels has protections from a very large amount of public scripts, things that alter your game data, like a mass item gib, and things that can affect your playthrough or completely ruin a character, like a Shadow Realm or sending your character into New Game Plus. Blue Sentinels protections are second to none, and for sure a safer way to play the game. Why I'm mentioning Blue Sentinels is for 3 reasons. The first reason is it allows you to remove players from your session, and yes, that is still cheating, and much like the original version of Stat Checker, it normalizes breaking the confines of the game under the justification that other players are breaking those same confines. So though I think it's good, it doesn't allow you to freely remove anyone from your session like Pyre v3, it's still creating the idea that it's okay to break the confines of the game since the program gave you the green light. The second reason is that it allows you to remove players from your game that are still playing within the confines of the game, but utilizing or abusing unintended mechanics. The community is very split on glitches in tech, and that is certainly a topic for a different video. However, this system is actively allowing players to go outside of the boundaries of the game to deal with players that are still within those boundaries. And as unfair as it may seem, it's still cheating, and again, normalized by the community.
Can someone finish off Mordred, please?
It also allows players to pick and choose who they are sending home. This, of course, gives the user an unfair advantage. For example, if an invader is using the Fab glitch to run away from a 3-man gank, and all 3 of the other players are also using that glitch, a co-invader who has Blue Sentinels can invade and choose to kick the 2 phantoms while leaving their co-invader, thus making a 2v3 turn into a 2v1, all with the press of a button. Again, this is blatantly cheating, and again normalized by the community. The third and final reason is it also still allows you to use Cheat Engine. So yet again, an anti-cheat tool is allowing players to have all the benefits of the anti-cheat while still actively cheating. I will say, if the user flags himself, whether it be by using a flagged glitch or cheating, the system doesn't let them kick the other players that are flagged for the same reasons as them. So there is some counteractive thought, but it's still making it feel like cheating is an okay thing and a regular part of the game. The point I'm making by going over all of these programs is that using these tools to control how other players are playing the game is not good for the community. It creates a standard that these things are okay, and quite frankly, they aren't. I'm not against the use of third-party programs that change how you play the game offline or in a controlled session with the consent of everyone involved, and of course, for actual protections against malicious players. A new player getting sent to New Game Plus is probably worse for the community, and I'm glad there are things available that allow the player to still enjoy the game. Cheating in Dark Souls 3 is too far gone to change at this point, especially with Elden Ring right around the corner. The main reason I wanted to talk about these issues is so that as a community going into the next game, we can change what is and isn't commonplace among the community. It is normal to invade Pontiff or host and deal with several cheaters. Yes, without a proper anti-cheat system from FromSoft, this is somewhat unavoidable. However, when we as the community justify the use of these malicious programs to police how people play the game, it not only pushes players out, but it opens that door that I mentioned previously, that it's okay for me to escape the boundaries of the game to deal with something that I don't think should be in the game in the first place. Now, as true as it may be that things are unfair and unbalanced in the PvP in this game, and based on what we saw in the network test probably will be in Elden Ring, it doesn't give us a free pass to break the boundaries set by the game. And by making breaking these boundaries okay, it makes it easier for players to stop playing and harder for new players to start playing. I have a lot of hopes for Elden Ring, but if there isn't a good anti-cheat directly from FromSoft and all the problems from the last 2 years are immediately prevalent, the PC community and things that are commonplace in that community will resort back to how it's been over the last 2 years, or even worse, the last 6 months, causing players that don't want to deal with it, like myself, to move to PlayStation or just find a different game to play. I cannot stress enough that I am not guilt-free in any of this, and I have certainly thought that the majority of these things were okay, that it was just how the game was played and something I accepted. Again, seeing the abuse of Pyre Kick got my attention, and more recently, over the last few months, and something I'm sure we'll see more of as we get closer to Elden Ring, any type of cheating is almost treated like a meme at this point. Cursing your Aldrich co-invader for hitting you, or crashing an Embered Fight Club, you're somehow doing the right thing. The mentality I've seen the community have has changed from using things to create builds being okay to just blatantly cheating on people, and that's fine.
Dang it.
Nice. What? Dude, Alec, you just slid on my screen.
Yeah, I fucking lagged, man.
Again, it took far too long for me to see this, and I was no doubt one of the people that would gladly crash a cheater's world. But the more I see these things affect the community, the more I realize that this mentality isn't going to reset back to what it was when the game was first released. Instead, we'll have these things available to us on day one, and when people are no doubt cheating maliciously, it will reopen this door that it's okay for you to break the boundaries of the game because someone else is. What's important to understand is that those players that are cheating maliciously want to affect the game negatively. They want to get people banned, they want to kill the activity, they want to normalize cheating. You crashing that person doesn't change their mission or even hardly slow them down. All we are doing as a community is making that stuff commonplace and creating a negative experience for new players and old players alike. I guess what I'm saying is, when you encounter a cheater, don't try to out-cheat them. You can simply block them through Steam and never connect to that account again. I don't like the abuse of the Steam block system, as it certainly can cause lower activity over time and affect how people play. However, in a situation like this, it's a little bit different. Whether you're on your first playthrough or an active member of the PvP or PvE community, players that want to negatively affect how you play the game, specifically by breaking the boundaries with a third-party program, deserve to be blocked and blacklisted. They only want negative outcomes for the community, they only want negative outcomes for the game. By taking it into our own hands to use third-party programs to try to out-cheat these players, we only add to that negative impact. If someone changes your character's game data by any of the methods mentioned above, you can revert to an old save and continue playing. I'll link a video on how to do that in the description. We don't have to cheat ourselves to counteract cheating, and we don't need to rely on third-party programs. Counter-cheating is not okay. Cheating to monitor the use of glitches and exploits is not okay. Cheating to overcome latency is not okay. In general, using a third-party source to be adjudicator and monitor in-game behavior is not okay. All of these things are part of the cheating problem with Dark Souls 3, and I hope we can understand this as we move into Elden Ring, and make it a more fun game where cheating isn't an active part of the game. If you made it to the end of this video, I appreciate it. Please consider liking the video and clicking the subscribe button. But whether or not you do either of those things, please help us build a good community in Elden Ring so we don't repeat the last 2 years. Thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next one.